Hi, Spots and Cheap Pops. You're on the air.
Hi, Spots and Cheap Pops. Folks, this is a bonus episode. We still have a WWE WrestleMania 43 show, but Flotty Dottie, a guy that's been getting a lot of attention from our show, just our show. We're the only one that likes to cover and talk about CM Punk. But CM Punk had a curtain-pulling back interview and dispelled some rumors, a couple of revelations, but was able to tell his side of the story, and I was absolutely fascinated with this entire interview. And like I always say, Punk, whatever he is in the ring and however I think he may have acted at certain times, when he has one of these in front of him, you just can't help to listen. But Vladi, I'll let you go first. What did you think of what he said, what you thought, and what you may think differently now? Just in general, what are you thinking with CM Punk? Absolutely, in my eyes, just kind of reiterating and kind of solidifying a lot of the things that we already thought. But there were a couple of revelations. What did you think about this interview, and how massive do you think it's going to be when it's all said and done?
You know, as you opened up this show, you used a word that has been in my mind for probably the last 24 hours, and that was fascinating. I was fascinated by this interview. And to be quite honest, as I opened that on YouTube and I saw that it was like an hour and 54 minutes or something, I was like, this is a bit of a commitment. I didn't realize how long this thing was, you know? I thought maybe it was going to be an hour. So I was able to sort of cut it in two pieces, and after where I had to pause it, I couldn't wait to get back to it. And I've never seen an interview in such a manner like this. Like, Ariel Helwani definitely scored some points with me. Like, I got to be honest, he asked questions I would be nervous to ask. And I was surprised at how forthcoming that conversation was between the two. And Ariel just orchestrated this interview beautifully. And he pulled out what I was shocked that he was able to go and just have Punk discuss. I didn't think he would touch some of these topics, Vince included.
Yeah.
And I was just, you know what, man, Mr. Valley, I got to tell you, like, just being in that room when that conversation, it's like everything I would have wanted to ask was asked.
Yeah.
I got what I felt was honestly a pretty honest and sincere answer overall. And you know what? Most of it. I don't feel like he's one to like go and just put on a guise and is just totally at that moment in the interview looking to go and just sway you. He's just telling you his side of it.
Yeah.
You know?
There were a couple of things, not necessarily with AEW, but there were a couple of things, and I'll get into it in a second. There were a couple of things that I was like, come on, bro. But go ahead.
Yeah, but yeah, overall, I was just, again, fascinated by the whole conversation. It reinforced some of the thoughts I already had, definitely. But then alluding to some of the other things, like where the NDA was in place was right after Brawl Out, right? So that's the one NDA that was actually in place. And they asked him to sign the NDA. And, this is me just reading between the lines during this interview. It seems as though Punk actually got injured in the locker room part.
Yep.
And that's with, you have people with, like corporate titles in this company injuring the biggest star that they had, the biggest draw that they had. It's a really bad look, especially when you talk about how safe your workplace is, right? And that was surprising, as I just assumed it happened in the match. I thought he blew his tricep, went, knew it was blown, was like, I'm going to just go and say whatever's on my mind.
Well, and there's a reason for that. He said he was hurt in the media scrum when he was, I'm old, I'm tired, I'm hurt. So
yeah,
he was in. So that's why I assumed it. I thought his arm was hurting, but I did notice he was eating Mindy's shit like it was nothing, and it was the same arm. So it was the right arm. That was the arm he was drinking with, and he was eating a lot of his, and he was eating his pastries with when he was having a mental breakdown.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, just also he opened up and as you mentioned, pulled the curtain back a little bit and showed you his relationship with Tony Khan as well. Tony Khan was like no way gonna like let him go. Like, here, let me go and produce this other show for you, and we'll separate you guys. And this is going to be your show, and then Wednesday night will be their show, basically. Which you and I pretty much assumed and understood that was happening. It was sort of mentioned at that point.
Yeah, but I didn't know Punk already was saying he wanted out of the company. What have I been saying since he went back and kissed the ring? He wanted out of there. He wanted to go to WWE since last spring. Now we know that to be the fact and the case. And Tony said, no, I want you here. Stay. No, we're doing this idea. And CM Punk's like, okay, because he can't just breach his contract. But he's begging him, let me go, Tony, let me go. So when Punk came back, just like I thought, he didn't give a shit. He had no fucks to give. He was going to get himself fired. That's exactly what he did. So that part was reinforced as well. Tony Khan being a complete weakling and fool and having almost zero control over his wrestlers. We knew that. And Punk's big thing, just brutal with him. And I don't know why he necessarily had to go there, but it's Punk. You don't get a lot of filters with him. I don't know if he had to bring up the fact that he called Tony Khan a clown. And this place is a joke. And, but that was the other big revelation, Vladi, was that, what was the other one?
Well, there was the Jungle Jack Perry part of it.
He didn't punch.
And then there was also the Hangman part of it.
Yeah.
The collision. Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Then you had Hangman going completely off script, doing and again, you could see CM Punk crystallized why he had his frustrations and why he did what he did. I still think he acted like a baby and a selfish asshole and an egotistical prick. But you do understand, just like even when he's a heel, in real wrestling, you understand where he's coming from. Yeah. And it certainly crystallized how immature and terrible the Elite were and how pathetic Tony Khan can be as an owner. And the fact that these guys took out and possibly injured your top guy, your world champion, over a backroom fight is embarrassing. And quite frankly, the fact that they're still EVPs is a joke. It already was, but now that really makes me just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Brawl out, and nothing ever got fixed. And we know the Elite didn't want to do business. That's one of the reasons Punk wanted to leave. They don't want to do business with me. They don't want me here.
Yeah.
And Punk wanted to go back to WWE, and then we found out what happened with Jungle Boy. The thing with Samoa Joe, you kind of felt like he would be the one person to talk sense into CM Punk in that instance.
Yeah, definitely. Because Samoa Joe could, turn it on completely for real there and clean that room up. So Punk knows, but you know what? Like you mentioned, sort of him looking to get fired on purpose. I'll say this: I have no doubt he wanted to be fired. I think he couldn't be out of there soon enough. Let's put it that way. It's obvious. But the one thing that happened there and what was the accelerant there was, and as he mentioned Collision. Now let's go back in time. You and I, at one point, probably, I believe, said that was the best wrestling show that we've seen in a long time. And I don't know if it was like the first few weeks of it or so, leading up to the show in London. Right?
June and July. It was like with Punk being there, and of course Bullet Club Gold and the FTR series. Some really great stuff happening on Collision. I thought it was the best show on TV, the best wrestling show on TV. I don't know if it was, what have you, but I know we were very impressed with the first month and a half, and now they're rando trio matches that no one cares about are now your main events. So,
and here Punk mentioned how that show was going and what his vision for that show was. And in show number 2, even though they're supposed to be separated, Jungle Jerk Off is there, and he stirs the pot. He curses out Shivani, according to Punk. This is all according to Punk and all that. Of course, I'm not there, but again, fascinated by this picture that he's painted. Curses out Shivani, curses out the trainer, one of the producers or something as well. Shivani comes and asks Punk, please, can you get involved? Shivani felt like this guy, there was some, needed an enforcer there to, lay down a law.
Which is ridiculous. He should have done his damn job. Your boss tells you to do a job, Jungle Jerk Off. You do the job. This kid should be fired. He should be nowhere near AEW ever again. Yeah. Until he comes back as a viable person that the fans want to see. Because right now, the fans give a fuck. Give a fuck about Jungle Boy.
Yeah. And so he paints this picture about how this all happened. And then, he's already the fly in the ointment, and they're just trying to get off the ground here. And then you bring it and fast forward it to Wembley. Jungle Jerk Off against Hook. Real glass is used. Cry me a river. You got a problem with what I just did? I'll kick your ass, blah, blah, blah. And next thing you know, he's getting choked out. But the in-between, where Punk is telling him to handle it, or I'll handle it.
Yep.
That's probably where Tony Khan gets the, I've never been so afraid for my life. He might have felt like he was being threatened,
That's been a joke since he said it. Everyone was like, shut the fuck. Shut up, Adderall.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, and I'm watching Punk. It's not the fact that I would be thinking, oh, Punk is threatening me by saying that. But if somebody else heard that and Tony's in the room, somebody could say, hey, Tony, that could be taken in a threatening way, blah, blah, blah. Make him look like the one that flew off the handle completely. Tony should have handled it, like you mentioned.
That's where now that's the big thing that was crystallized is Tony's inability to handle all of this. Even Meltzer's jumping on Tony Khan saying, I told him to fix it. Meltzer's on his podcast today after CM Punk blasted him a couple times as well, which was great.
Yeah,
what do you call him, a goof?
Goofball, right?
Some goofball with giving out 5 stars. And that was a great line. They care more about a 5-star rating for some goofball instead of a full house.
Yeah.
That was a great line. They're not, it's the wrestling business, and what they do is not, it's not sustainable, which he said. That's the only thing I would disagree with. If Tony Khan is still willing to lose $30 million a year, which it looks like he is for this long term, it is sustainable because he is a multi-billionaire, and he's going to be even more of a multi-billionaire within the next decade or so. So, and he keeps on, and just because he loses $30 million here, they have so many other companies that they're making hundreds of millions of dollars in generating. It's just a boop, let's push this $30 million over here and just put it over there.
Yeah, Punk had mentioned that, as he said, as long as Tony Khan is willing to put money into it.
Yeah. Well, he said it's not sustainable, and it's not. If you're losing $30 million a year,
right? To anybody else, it's not sustainable. But for the guy who loves, the art of wrestling, and is going to pump, his inheritance into it, if you will, it's going to live.
And and by the way, he's not. He's still that dude makes more than $30 million a year. He's got to. Well, maybe not. Stocks and everything though, but I don't know what his income is, but I mean, it looks like he is going to be able to keep this baby going for a while until maybe they start. But Punk brought up the niche crowd too a number of times.
Yeah. And
the niche crowd that I call them AEW gatekeepers. Don't you? I mean, you can't say anything bad about Jericho. So Punk's thing is it's this niche audience makes people not want to give AEW a shot. They really do. And they're like, F them. We don't need them anyway because we like our wrestling the way we like our wrestling. The problem is the product is never going to grow if they're going to be the gatekeepers of AEW. It will never grow. You need to get more stuff in. Now, look, AEW's product's been good, but since the beginning of the year, so I'm more optimistic about it than a lot of other people. But
I thought Punk had a really good explanation about sort of getting to that point about the niche audience and how it's not going to make the leap. And it was the whole thing about where he was asked by somebody at an indie show, "Hey, what did I do? Did I do well?" And he asked her to say, "What do you think I'm going to say?" Well, too many no sells and too many moves, or whatever she said, right?
The normal indie shit, a Young Bucks match.
Yeah, pretty much, exactly. That's exactly what I thought. And he goes, "Well, listen." He goes, "How many? What'd you guys do tonight?" "Well, we sold out." "Well, you did what you needed to do to do this here." And he made the point where that's going to go up to a certain number, but after a certain number, basically, it gets to the point about broadcasting it and how a national audience is not going to like that, and you have to go and do something a little different. And the way he broke that down, I thought was great, and it really captures the shortcomings, I would say, of what AEW has not done in the last 2.5 years, where they haven't really grown the actual audience. And when you have somebody like Punk explain that in such a manner, he's right. Like I could see why. And I've done that. You and I have both done this, where you bring a friend to watch an AEW show, and you're getting a reaction they maybe watched it back in the day in terms of like old WWF, WWE, ECW, etc. And then they watch AEW, and then there's obvious things they usually dislike, and then there's certain things that remind them of it, and they like it.
Yeah.
So I kind of get where he was coming from in regards to how they laid these things out. And you saw a difference in Collision versus Dynamite in that short period, too.
Yeah, you did. I mean, both shows were doing okay, but Collision used to be must-see TV, and it's not anymore.
Yeah.
And he did go behind, but that's the thing. A lot of the stuff, he just reiterated things we already heard. He did change a couple of things. And like I said, the big revelations was that he got injured in the fight. The other revelation, he got injured in the brawl out, or most likely got injured in the brawl out. And he also wanted out of AEW way before he came back. He wanted out. When he went back to WWE, he already knew he wanted out and wanted to go back. But to go into detail with Jack Perry, I thought that was great. Jack Perry, again, we already said it, should be fired already. The stuff about Vince, where he's like, good, we got him. I mean, he almost, I think he made a thing, all right, good, we got him, and go put him in the basement. Basically, let's get rid of anything that he touched, and I would have liked if he had said, do you think Punk or Vince McMahon is good for business at this point in time? I wanted Punk to say he hasn't been good in business for over a decade. Didn't you hear my pipe bomb?
Yeah.
That's what I would have liked to see. The brutality. I don't think he used. He didn't talk. He didn't. I don't even think he mentioned the EVPs by name. Did they?
Ariel mentioned the Bucks, and I don't think Kenny's name was mentioned.
What a disaster. I can't believe they injured their top guy in a fucking back locker room brawl. That is stupidity.
It's unprofessional at the
Well, I mean, again, he shouldn't have opened his mouth and aired all that laundry out right then and there. However, he did explain so beautifully why he did what he did, because he saw these assholes who have been, in his view, lying and making stuff up and not asking him, more importantly, not asking him what his situation is on it. So that's not reporting. That's having an agenda and just pushing your agenda. Okay, Alvarez and Meltzer. So Punk sees these guys and he gets to eviscerate them to their faces. Nick Hausman's another guy that he didn't particularly care for. The thing with Colt Cabana coming up, trying to squash it, and he said, No, I'm not talking to you without my lawyer.
Yeah, I don't blame him. That guy does have a bank account with his mother.
Well, yeah, but he just was the brutal honesty, particularly when you see Tony Khan, who has skirted through this. Ariel Helwani had a big issue with Tony Khan. That's one reason I thought that Punk would get it. First of all, they've had a couple interviews prior. And Ariel Helwani is a big guy in the UFC MMA, and Punk is obviously big in that too, in terms of being employed, in terms of his knowledge. So these guys are simpatico. I think that was one of the reasons Punk was so free with all the information. And he
shared relationship with Paul Heyman too.
That's what I'm saying. These guys are thick as thieves. And especially when you remember Ariel Helwani had that issue with Tony Khan. And since then, Ariel Helwani doesn't do the drama thing, but he has thrown shade every chance he's gotten at AEW. So this was an opportunity. Let's be honest. And look, he didn't act like he took any glee in it. Look, Ariel Helwani, I don't think he's the most charismatic interviewer you will ever see, but damn it, he gets the answers and he's not afraid to ask questions. I am of the opinion, though, he probably cleared some of those questions with Punk. But he was kind of like, is that okay? And Punk was very clear. It's a difference of not being able to say shit about it and not wanting to say shit about it.
Right. Yeah. The Hangman thing was an interesting part as well. The whole going over the promo in the back, getting on the same page there. Then they actually go into the ring. He goes completely off script. Then I appreciated the fact that Punk even mentioned, like, hey, it's hard to hear him because of the crowd. And how he's like now trying to pay attention to exactly where's this promo going.
And that was awkward. Punk didn't do...
No.
You could tell there was something going on because Punk didn't bring his A game in that one at all.
No. And now when you look back at it, especially when, you're describing that they actually got on the same page, and here's Hangman's throwing him a curveball for good old Colt Cabana.
How could they not know? They're EVPs. How could they not know he wasn't fired because of CM Punk? Like, where did this whole thing even come from? Yeah. That's what I'm questioning. Where did it come from that Punk got him fired? And you know what? Punk now, instead of having Meltzer or Alvarez tell his side of the story, he went and he talked to you himself, and Punk was like, this is what happened. This is my version. I still think there's zero accountability in the world of Phil Brooks. Anytime he said he did something wrong, he came, but this is why I did what I did and finished it. I shouldn't have done that, but da-da-da-da-da-da. So there's still very little accountability in the world of CM Punk, and that has always been the case. I will say that. But the accountability of Tony Khan here and the EVPs of the fight, and also the other great point Punk brought up with Jack Perry, you're going to break a window to a rental car, and you're going to return it without you're going to return the rental car without fucking a glass in it. Right. That is pretty fucked up and stupid. You can't just willfully break things just because it's a TV show.
Right.
Especially if you can dummy it and make it look good anyway. Like, why would you?
Yeah, and it's odd because here, like, Jack Perry actually has family that worked in television. He doesn't even have one iota of the idea of what actually is done in the TV production.
That's because his father's dead.
Jesus. Had a Christian appear in this conversation?
Well, because he was the first one that did the father's dead. He was the first one. He was the inaugural, because your father's dead. First one.
Yeah, so, I mean, that story is just crazy. The fact that he's, like, screaming at Tony Schiavone, too, by the way, comes off a bit bratty.
I don't get how you can scream at Tony Schiavone. The guy's a legend. That's a whole other part. You probably don't mind as much. You don't like Schiavone. I love Schiavone, so...
Say what you will. I could say whatever about Schiavone being... What my thoughts are about him on the microphone and on screen. The other thing is, behind the scenes, he's been named a producer. That doesn't mean I don't feel like, hey, you know what? If he's been named a producer and Tony Khan feels that good about him, listen, Schiavone's been around a lot of television, a lot of wrestling. Perfect guy to have on your team to voice an opinion. That sort of experience is priceless.
And that's these Jack Perry and these Hangman. They don't. appreciate and they're not grateful for the guys who paved the way, it seems like. And that's one of the things that CM Punk has been saying about them since the beginning.
Right. And so the fact that you had this younger guy there who's buddies with the EVPs, and he's, basically showing Shivani who's boss, where he's a producer named by the owner of the company, and you have zero respect for him and other people on the staff in addition to that. Sort of a disgusting scene, man.
It's embarrassing. Now, look, we're going back 6 months, year and a half. AEW seems to have right the ship as of now. So we'll see, but you're right. I think we always thought that Tony Khan was the most culpable one and most responsible, at least the most responsible one. His inability to lead, which we know is the case. The only people that says he's a good leader are the ones that manipulate him.
Yeah.
Like Chris Jericho will tell you, "Oh, Tony's great. He's not a pushover." Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to fix that. What do you want me to do about it? If that was the line that Tony said, it seems like he doesn't even know how to manage people. And that's another big problem. I thought, but this interview in general was just a great, completely unfiltered CM Punk.
Yeah.
And he told you his side of the story. I didn't change my opinions of him at all, because I still think he could have been a better leader in the situation. But hearing him, and if you go by everything he says, he's almost justified in every single way in what he did. I don't think he is. I think that media scrum was a very selfish thing to do. What he should have done, but he did do it. He called Hangman Page out. The thing was, a lot of us weren't privy to all that stuff at the time. And so now that you see all the pieces put into place, CM Punk, look, just like he did when he left WWE, he made a real strong argument as to why he did what he did and why he walked out and why WWE was the devil and now why AEW is the devil. He did it 10 years ago on Colt Cabana's podcast. He's doing it now. And the guys, again, there's not many people who are more captivated when they have a microphone in front of them. And this was learning all this stuff was brilliant. And it was a great interview and a great listen. So if you haven't, please do so.
Punk also mentioned then when he was asked if he felt like welcomed by the EVPs when he arrived there, he said, "No, not really." He felt like he could read it and didn't sense it.
He's always had that problem. Oh, he doesn't like me. He doesn't like me. Triple H hated me. Oh, he didn't like me. Nobody likes me. He's one of those people too. Let's be real for a second.
Yeah. He's definitely done that. Let me ask you this. If there was any animosity between the two, like right off the bat, and I recall one of the episodes from Texas, Punk wore a pro-abortion shirt, right?
Yes.
And in this interview, he also blatantly said he's an atheist. Do you think that probably rubbed the Young Bucks the wrong way at all, or no?
No. Not at all. They're one of their best friends in the business is Sonny Kiss and Nyla Rose. Sorry, we're talking about trans people, which hardcore right wing Christians not so much like.
All right. Okay.
They're also, we're dear friends with a lot of people and throughout the business. You can't have such an obtuse view of life and be in the entertainment industry. At least not open about it. So I don't think that has anything to do with it. No, I think it was because CM Punk was taking every bit of credit that he felt like this is my $1 million gate on my back. This is because of me. This is because of me. Dude wasn't even in the company for a year yet. And so when you have these people who spent years trying to create AEW, and they were the ones that did it when you were sitting home the whole time, it would annoy me too. It really would. CM Punk really, he likes himself a real lot, right? And he definitely didn't do everything he needed to do to fit in with the EVPs either. Again, none of them were their best selves in the situation. Listening to CM Punk, you understand his side a lot better. I still have every bit of, I still point my finger the exact same way I was before I heard it. Except I might be pointing my finger a little harder at Tony and the Bucks, but of course I'm getting Punk's version. And the thing is, I'm not going to listen to everything Meltzer says and Brian Alvarez says because they don't tell you who they talk to. And if you're not going to give me that, I'm going to listen to the actual horse's mouth that went on for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Opposed to whispering and telling little secrets to their two little jerk-off buddies in California, Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer. Okay? Fuck that. I am not basing my opinion on a dirt sheet writer. Ever. I'm going to base my opinion on what they say, what I see, what I hear from other people. And so I heard from CM Punk's point, if I was a judge and who was liable, the gavel slams on where Tony Khan and the Elite are the liable ones. If all evidence has been compiled now, Vladdy Dottie, if this is where the end of the case ends, CM Punk now officially is less culpable than the other guys.
It's an amazing day. I mean, April 2nd, I'll never forget this.
Either way, CM Punk was real convincing in his interview about all the things that were going wrong. And again, the way he told it, say you want about CM Punk. The one thing he bullshitted about, 100% bullshitted about, lied about, when he said that he didn't hear from WWE until Thanksgiving weekend. That is such bullshit. You could not have that. That's where it's like, Jesus, dude. And I don't even understand the reason why to lie about it. But there's too many damn coincidences that happened between September and Survivor Series. He was on a UFC and said, I got 2 months. I can do this for about 2 months. 2 months just happened to be when Survivor Series was. Survivor Series was in Chicago. We had several hints of CM Punk in September and October. They stopped around mid-October because I guess they didn't want to give too many things away. There is no way they made first contact in Thanksgiving. There was either a verbal agreement or something was put in place well before that week. So that was the only thing that I'm calling bullshit out. The rest, I think Punk was genuine and he was telling his truth. Wait, do you think he was telling the truth that Nick Khan made the first contact? Wait, I want to get you. I'm gonna put you on the spot here. Do you think CM Punk legitimately was not contacted until the Monday before Thanksgiving?
I think he and Nick Khan have a good relationship, is what I picked up here. Honestly, the other thing is here's the one other thing that he mentioned. He did not have a non-compete in place, which is crazy. So if they knew he had a non-compete, why wouldn't they you think they just wanted to bring him back in Chicago, nothing before?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's feasible. Yeah.
It just, all the hints and the fact he said, I got 2 months.
Yeah.
But there was a line where, Nick Khan said, I wish I knew that beforehand, like you said. And I just think he was working us there. And, it happened so fast. I had no idea. La-di-da. I had no idea WWE was going to get me back. No. I just happened to visit them and apologize to Triple H in April when I wanted to get the hell out of AEW. No. Nothing to see here. I was a good guy. Burp derp. Bullshit.
We have Bailey to thank for this entire change in the wrestling industry.
Hey, Punk didn't do a Jeff Hardy, so he wasn't that bad. He didn't Jeff Hardy it. Just finish the match and just leave. I don't even know if he finished.
We had Bailey was the spark to help move this vessel known as CM Punk back to the port of WWE.
The catalyst.
Just in time for everything. Yeah. Bailey, of all people.
Yeah. I didn't even know they were close, to be honest with you.
Yeah. She's a big fan of AJ Lee. Evidently, they have a good relationship.
AJ Lee was like one of the few real wrestlers coming up with her. It was her, the Bellas, and Kelly. Come on.
Yeah. What do you think about the flip side of the coin where after the brawl out and he hurt his tricep, that there was no contact from AEW?
What do you mean
that
by
because
no contacting? No one talked to him?
yeah, he said he didn't hear anybody, not a phone call, nothing.
Not even from Tony? I find that hard to believe.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, go back. That's what I picked up on it, and because
Well,
Ariel
sometimes
actually,
Punk could wait. Sometimes Punk just doesn't get back to people either, and he forgets because Randy Orton. They just did a watch along for the WrestleMania match, and Randy Orton like, yeah, I reached out to you to try to make up and make amends because they had I guess an issue where Punk literally hit him with a GTS and it was kind of fucked up. So Orton was hot about it, and Orton apologized later, and Punk never got back to him. So that kind of thing.
yeah. But I was thinking, say if it was true, do you think that might have been tied to the fact that there's an NDA in place?
That's too much speculation for me to really comment on. To me to like make a good guess. I don't know who definitively what part of the NDA was signed. I don't know if they weren't allowed to talk to each other. There's too much that we don't know. We could speculate, but I don't. It just to me either way, it just seemed like the EVPs did not value CM Punk the way he should have been valued, and Tony Khan didn't manage the situation as if he valued CM Punk, even though he clearly did, begging CM Punk to stay and convincing him to start doing Collision opposed to just letting him fire him and send him to WWE. So it's hard to speculate on that. I think it's too much we don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I you know what, I was a little bit surprised by that, according to him anyways, that there was no sort of contact. He mentioned that there was a doctor that he knew through WWE is who basically he ended up going to, and he was like grateful for his like presence at that point. So it was almost like WWE helped him with his injury more than AEW at that point. So
yeah, I mean, Punk, it's kind of the same thing he did with the doctor that sued him because he got sued, which he won the case though, but he got sued because he besmirched the doctor that was working for WWE. So, I mean, a lot of this is just CM Punk being CM Punk too. Telling his truth in an emphatic, passionate way where you believe him. But like stuff like I didn't hear. I find it really hard to believe that Tony Khan didn't reach out to CM Punk the entire time. I find that hard to believe, especially because he's such a mark for him, and he paid him so much freaking money. So I don't know if I buy that. That could have been a miscommunication somewhere. Did they just do that to spite him? Is that what they did? Or are you a child?
Down a peg. Yep.
What are you? The Bucks legitimately did that on purpose. And don't forget, I guess the person who's in charge of travel was very good friends with the Young Bucks.
Yeah, he was a stand-in.
Yeah. So if that was the case, they are immature children. And that's the only way you could put it. Immature, like high school girls, high school boys, anyone, just children. It's despicable. And the gatekeepers in them, maybe the company will grow when the Young Bucks retire. Maybe. Because they're a big portion of that, the AEW gatekeepers.
Yeah. Another sort of intriguing thing with the interview that sort of opened my eyes was that it seems like Punk has a future in booking. And I could see him totally taking over NXT one day. If he keeps his nose clean.
That's a big if, right?
I'd say I'm more betting that those odds are looking more favorable every day.
Well, yeah, because he has nowhere to go now.
Well,
he's got to be a good little obedient superstar. Neutered Punk.
He just went and referenced McMahon like nobody else.
That promo, I know. I'm just being hard on him. That promo last week was great. I know.
But even talking about Vince in this interview, this is like
some of the texts
1 week. Yeah.
Which we did a nice reading on Moment in the Valley. We read those texts out loud and performed them. Encourage everyone to go check it out on our YouTube page. Yeah.
But I can see him totally like running NXT, man. Like if Triple H is able to get or convince Shawn Michaels to go to the to like Raw or something, as Punk gets older, injured, I could see him being totally part of developmental for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's got too big of an ego. I know he wants to.
Wait, so he would be literally the big fish in a small pond. What's better for a big ego?
When has he ever booked a real show? Ring of Honor? And
He was talking about what he was basically doing
Collision?
in Collision. Yeah.
Because it wasn't that great. They were good matches. What was so great about it? The matches were great. His promos were great. And they were using people that were what we enjoyed. I don't know, man. I'm that
Wait
horse.
a second. At one point earlier in this interview, this conversation, you mentioned how we thought that was one of the best wrestling shows on TV.
At the time, yeah.
At the time. And now we're gonna just say, it wasn't that good. We literally just said it was the best at one.
He was there for 2 months.
He
was there for 2 months. You're making him whatever.
But wait, you don't think he was part of that booking, FTR versus Bullet Club?
I don't know. I don't know if why would those guys bring him in for that? I don't know. I think they probably figured it out on their own, to be honest with you. I don't know. I wasn't there. I mean, he wasn't the only guy. He wasn't the main producer of the show. You're acting like he ran the whole entire thing. It's not. He was a leader, but he wasn't the only guy.
He had a second contract from Tony Khan as a consultant. Tony's saying this is your show. Tony Schiavone is going to him with issues from Jack Perry. I'd say I'm pretty confident that Punk was involved in that show more and beyond his own segment.
Yeah, there was no drama when he was booking, right? I'm telling you right now, he doesn't have the political acumen to run a brand. He's going to have to continue to grow as a person. You ask me right now, he has too big of an ego, and when he's told how to do something, he's going to do it. Now, pie in the sky, and he gets NXT, sure. But he's going to have to learn how to do it first. He's going to have to learn all the things and have to learn how to do it in the WWE way. At the end of the day, he's going to have to do exactly what Hunter and Shawn Michaels have to tell him. I don't think as a human being he's capable of that for any sustained period of time. It could be a Paul Heyman thing where he does it for a year, he gets pissed off about it, and he leaves. I don't know. But until I see this guy continue to grow as a person, which he's just doing the same thing that AEW did at WWE a decade ago. There's not a lot of growth here. The only big where he grew, where I can tell, is that he knows now WWE is really good now, better than it's ever been before. It's a team atmosphere. It's more in control. And he knows if he fucks up, he's done. So he's, like I said, he's going to be a good little superstar. Does he do that? Does he have that enough of a... Because you do need to have a little bit of a political acumen to run shows. You do. Unless you're Vince McMahon. So that's my thing on why I don't think at this moment I would not say that's going to happen. I don't think he'll ever run NXT. No.
It seems like he has dreams of booking, though, man. I think he'd be willing to check his ego to get that dream.
Look, he's going to have to prove himself for years before that even becomes a thought. That's the reality. And everyone's like, oh, he's been so good. Everyone in WWE loves him. He's had one televised match, folks. He's had 5 segments, maybe 6. Let's see where we're at in 6 months to a year. That's all I'm saying about CM Punk.
I think it's realistic that even if he gets injured, that's where they'd want to use him. I think he's coming to that crossroads where, like, he is getting older. Maybe he feels like he's breaking down. And how do you stay in the business? Is by being able to go and teach. Like, imagine being taught by him in a promo class. Like, that's like learning from Dusty Rhodes, man. You know, like, just to have that opportunity to impact the future. I mean, that would feed his ego as well.
Sure. Well, let's see. Again, he's going to have to be a good little superstar for several years, at least a couple years.
The whole good little superstar line. Yeah. Who else is cutting lines on Vince McMahon? This is not him being a good little superstar and, like, you know, not towing the line like CM Punk. You know, only CM Punk seems to do. Like, he totally went for the throat here twice.
I just don't think he's going to be running NXT ever. Ever.
Okay, but, like, again, like, how's he being, like, a good little superstar if he's, like, pushing the envelope with this already?
He's not going to cause any waves. He's not going to cause any waves. He's not going to say
he's going to be a decent employee. That's all he has to be.
Yeah, well, we'll see. When has he not been a disgruntled employee in his entire wrestling career? If you could tell me, I'm all ears.
You know what? Like, you look at what he just described to AEW, I can't necessarily blame him for like what happened there. You and I just applauded the fact that we feel that the Elite was more culpable. So, like, all right, yeah, he wasn't
an asshole
happy there.
And he still was an asshole and was real proud. He's not going to change. Why would I change? Why would I change? First promo back in WWE, I've changed. Yeah, he's changed because he's done. His legacy burned to the ground if he doesn't have a good run right now. What he was and what he could have been if this WWE run doesn't work out, a lot of people are going to say what could have been with him. He's going to have to go out. And look, I'm not saying you're definitely wrong, but is he going to have the ear more than Road Dogg? Or more than William Regal? Who's got a better chance of doing NXT? A guy that's worked with Triple H and knows what it's... He's got to learn all the production things. He's got a lot to learn, and he's got to do it being a model citizen. Those things he's got to do over years. Can he probably do it if he can check his ego? Sure. He's probably not gonna, though, and that's what I'm saying. But we'll see if 2029 runs around. Now, if he starts working under Shawn Michaels and they say this is the move we're going to do, and he works under Shawn for a couple of years, well, then you'll see what happens. But until he becomes, they're not just going to hand it to him. He's going to have to be in a role behind the scenes.
No, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not saying they're going to hand it to him. I can see him doing like being in charge of promo class and being one of the producers there, whatever the case.
Oh, I thought you said he was going to run all NXT.
Oh, I'm saying if he starts, say if he retires as a wrestler, goes to NXT, starts as a producer, does like promo class. And has certain responsibilities, I could see him running it like Shawn Michaels for sure. At that point, he's totally vested then.
Yeah, well, let's see if he cannot be a disgruntled employee. Again, I asked you, has he ever not been a disgruntled employee for more than 6 months to a year? I'm all ears if you can remember it.
And I would go right back to the AEW thing. He's working for assholes, basically.
He had problems with WWE too. We forgetting about that? Is it always everyone else's fault but Punk?
No. But like when you're talking about the problems, I mean, like we just talked about how he just won a lawsuit against WWE's doctors, and when you hear,
well, he defended. He didn't sue them. The doctor sued him. So he won the case, yeah. But it wasn't like he won money or anything. Right, it was a bullshit case. He was just saying the doctor didn't treat him right. It's nothing. The doctor was just looking for get extra money. It was a really terrible case.
Yeah, but
whatever. It's so far away, and so many things have to happen. Whatever. I don't think he has it in him as a person to be a model citizen and put his ego in check to get to the point where he's going to learn under Shawn Michaels' learning tree and Triple H's learning tree for any sustained period of time. I don't think he has it in him as a person. You do? We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it'll be intriguing, man.
Yeah, I mean, I could see him being part of the booking team and be part of creative, but to have the entire thing on him being in charge of the entire thing, I think Triple H and the rest of them would be kind of leery, a little wary to do that. And by the way, The Rock and CM Punk have a lukewarm relationship too. Nothing terrible, but there was definitely something there.
Yeah.
So, but like I said before, so we're good with that. I mean, in terms of the NXT thing, but the guy can be really creative. I don't think he's as smart for the business as he thinks he is. I'm not saying he's like Bully Ray, but some of the things he does is kind of cliche. Just kind of go, his promos are great, but some of his ideas with them are a little weird. Remember that Rocky 3 thing? That was terrible.
Oh yeah, that was all him. He didn't even see the movie, but it was his idea.
Well, it obviously wasn't. I'm making a joke. You're on. You got your guns out because I cut a promo on your boy again. Got your guns out at me. We'll see. You're putting him in charge of an entire brand.
I didn't realize how much he loves being behind the scenes and like having some sort of impact on like future generations or working with people. Seems
And the thing is that he will get a lot more respect this time around than he was the last time around. Last time around, he was looking for respect, and he was kind of acting like he was a leader to people who had been there a lot longer than him and been in the business longer than him. The first time around, we famously bring up Rob Van Dam, Chris Jericho, and Booker T laughing at him, thinking he's a leader.
Right.
So, he's always, so I think he'll inherently get more respect because he's older, and a lot of people started watching wrestling or started watching it again because of him. And that's one thing no one can ever take away from that. Pipe Bomb was a seed that people like the Young Bucks, Cody Rhodes, Kenny Omega, and Tony Khan, and everything that happened prior, including All In, that seed grew into what is right now becoming one of the best times in professional wrestling. And he did reflect on it and say it's much better now. The product's much better now too. So Punk's in a better place. If he's in a better place, and it's a better time for him, and he's going to get more respect than he did. So there's a lot of things that I think he'll be successful. I hope he is. I just don't know if if he can put together the kind of matches consistently. And I don't know what his contract is either. I don't know if it's part-time or full. It looks like it's part-time. So we'll see what happens. But he's motivated and hungry.
You're saying physically what his matches are going to be like?
Yeah. I don't know if...
I don't have... I'll be honest with you, I don't have a great feeling about it. I almost sense it from him.
Well, he said something. I actually caught... I watched a lot of wrestling stuff today because and I watched the Bray Wyatt documentary, and I watched CM Punk, Randy Orton. I might have watched this yesterday, actually. Punk and Orton did a watch along to their WrestleMania match, and I think it was 2000, maybe 9 in 2010. He was in Nexus, so it must have been 2011. It was a couple months before, like 2 months before the Pipe Bomb.
Okay.
So Orton, and it was a good, solid match. He was doing a springboard clothesline that he failed to do like every time he was in AEW. and Orton caught him with it. But during that time, he said, "Oh, look at my body. When I was in shape." So I think you're right. He is very aware. He is very aware of it. Very aware of.
I wouldn't be surprised, man. I wouldn't. If he's more like of a part-time guy and almost like, dare I say, like a leader of the Heyman guys, something like that. Just throw that out there. But, where he's basically a leader of a faction with a couple of guys that are doing more of the wrestling than he does, but he's basically their mouthpiece at least.
But he doesn't even look like he can fight. Like, he looks worse than he used to. That's the other thing. Like, you look at his body against Drew McIntyre. How is that? What are we, AEW?
Exactly.
Like, how is Orange Cassidy beating Wardlow? That's kind of like, maybe that's a bad example.
Totally unrealistic.
Yeah.
How did Marco Stunt ever get a win?
I don't think he did he?
I'm just hypothetically saying. How's that kid how's that child in that ring?
But that's part of it. And Triple H doesn't mind as long as the crowd loves you. And that's the thing. As long as the crowd is still behind CM Punk, you'll have a place in a very in a reputable spot. But yeah, he doesn't look like a very good wrestler. He's just not. And I'm not saying it to shit on him. He looked bad in the Royal Rumble. Now, I don't know when he got hurt, and he didn't either. How come he didn't remember when he got hurt?
Yeah, I don't know why he doesn't want to give away things too.
He said that a lot too. Yeah.
Yeah.
The rumor was he got it when McIntyre hit his DDT on him.
Yeah, the Future Shock. What'd you think about his comments about MJF?
I thought it was good, and I thought it was honest, and I thought it was true. But again, I think CM Punk, just like Cornette and a lot of guys, that kind of wrestling, I think that's just a taste thing with Punk per se, because MJF doesn't do a lot of the bullshit. So I didn't necessarily agree with it. Everything else I agreed with, but MJF, that he'll come. He's not even what is he, 28, 29 years old? MJF will be fine by the time he gets to WWE after this contract's up.
Yeah, definitely. I thought it was kind of funny too, like when he would mention his friends at AEW that are still there. He doesn't want them getting in trouble. And then towards the end of the interview, he mentions like Brody King, Sting, Darby Allin, and he started like rattling off like 6 or 7 names. I'm like, oh, there's his friends.
I mean, he just said that. Look, again, he obviously has a lot of animosity towards AEW at this particular point in time. Not as much as he did with WWE, but he definitely had access to grind, and he had a lot to say because he's been seeing people and a certain agenda, a certain narrative by Meltzer and Alvarez and other guys that were pro Young Bucks and pro Elite. He was probably tired of hearing all the bullshit without speaking. And once he gets going, he doesn't mind telling you. Yeah. He's honest. And now that he said all of it, it's obviously making huge news. And Tony Khan's probably very embarrassed because that's I'm sure he didn't want anything that came out yesterday, the actual version, because Tony's been so tight-lipped about it. No one can say anything about anything. We don't know anything. I can't say shit. And then CM Punk just told everybody what happened. Yes, his version, but a lot of it confirms everything we know. And the biggest thing is that Tony Khan, I hope he's grown since then, during that time was a pathetic, weak leader. And that was the biggest reason things went down the way they did. He should have listened to Dave Meltzer because he's such a genius.
Meltzer tried to warn him. I'm telling you.
He didn't mention that the last fucking 2 years, though. I warned him. Did you? Then why were you getting everybody? Then why weren't you saying that when the Elite were having problems, Schmelzer? Sometimes the guy's so full of shit.
Yeah.
I told him the whole time. I don't remember that in your reporting of All In, bud. I don't remember with that reporting with All Out. I don't remember it with the reporting about Colt Cabana. I don't remember any of that. For some reason, you forgot to tell us. Oh, okay. I know why. I need downloads. Okay, so now I'm going to throw some spin on it. And maybe he did say that once. He might have said a random text. But Meltzer wants to make himself part of the story. You're not, Dave. You're not. You and your little jerk-off friend, Brian Alvarez.
And when Meltzer's that, dare I say, if it's true, honest, he also indicts himself as being one of the manipulators of Tony Khan. Like, why does a dirt sheet writer have access to the owner of a company like this, and he's voicing his opinion on how the show should be done? Like, why?
That's a Triple H going to Meltzer for advice. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, what should I do with Baron Corbin? Let's hear what Meltzer's thoughts are on that.
And Meltzer always has a certain spin on if he wants to make AEW ratings not look so bad or whatever. He always puts this ridiculous semantic-laced stretch of a spin on why it's not a bad, like AEW is not in a bad way. Now, he's very critical of Tony and AEW at times. So I don't want to say it's all whatever, but in terms of this Punk thing, for coming to this revelation that he has Tony's ear, you're exactly right. Dave Meltzer should have no impact on AEW because he wants to see New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yeah. And we're seeing it. Yeah. Oddly enough.
Maybe that's why we're seeing Shibata every night.
Right?
Who is such a ham and cheese sandwich of a New Japan wrestler. Like, not with no condiments. Just like,
yeah, you just
not even like decent white bread, like shitty white bread.
But listen, we're fat guys. We're going to eat it anyway, right?
I might toast it. If it's bad bread, I toast it.
You got to toast it.
You got it, but
at that point.
But yeah, Meltzer should shut his mouth. I just wish he would go away.
Yeah. Trying to think of anything. Oh, how about this? Since we're talking about AEW, last night, for the first time, ironically enough, Tony Khan starts letting people go.
Yeah.
And not that I think, it's his company. Again, he has every right to do this. And honestly, probably should have done this a while ago, but he was one to say that he would never do this.
Should probably add a bunch of names to the list, too, to be honest.
Yeah, Chris Jericho.
Oh.
But it's ironic that he does this on the same night that Punk goes and does his big reveal. And this, to me, it's almost like, in ways, I feel like Tony Khan is wagging the dog, Like,
I don't think he's devious like that. He's too gullible and naive.
Yeah, I mean, it's something else for the AEW fans to talk about besides, if it was just dumb luck, then fine.
I think it was. I think it was. I don't think it was a coincidence. Because it's not like it's good press, because most people are saying, I thought you said you were never going to cut people. You said that if you sign a deal, you got to be in it for the long haul. That's what you said, Tony. He's got to grow as a person. He's got to grow as a businessman, folks. And other than Stu Grayson, I gave a shit about everyone on that list. And I don't care that much about Stu Grayson either. Was he in the Dark Order? I don't even know if he was in the Dark Order.
I don't know either.
I don't think he was.
The thing is, when people try to hold him to that, you got to ask yourself as a fan, do you think Tony Khan's running a charity here, or is he looking to run a business? If it's a charity, he's going to keep everybody there, and they're going to just milk off of his teat.
And then now everyone's wondering. That's the thing. The people that were released are non-entities.
Yeah.
Gravity? You're going to miss Gravity?
I mean, he was a big deal, man. Remember when he would slow down as you were acting this out? He was a luchador who was like almost stuck in time. He was the gravity of the situation.
Because he flies so easily, because it's like gravity. There were like 3 on the list. I didn't even know who the hell they were.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'm whatever. Who I recognized Stu Grayson, and I recognized Gravity. Who else was on there that we knew?
Who could forget the legend of Parker Bordeaux?
That was the other one. Those are the only 3 that I was. And he just doesn't have it, I guess, in the wrestling business. He's had opportunity after opportunity, and he looked like a beast. He looked like like another Brock Lesnar. Just nothing. He's not Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, he's nowhere.
He got a bunch of tattoos and it just doesn't fit whoever the hell he is.
Yeah, I was anything I saw in NXT and even AEW, I was not really impressed or entertained.
They were so bad, Swerve got rid of him after 2 appearances.
Yeah, remember
that? And ever since then, he's off to the races.
He was that close to being connected to Swerve, and look where he would have been. And that got derailed.
I think they screwed up, too. One of them screwed that spot up. I forget what happened. Like one of them wasn't where they needed to be, or something happened. I forget. But, I where I saw people more critical, they're basically saying Tony Khan's a hypocrite because he said he wouldn't have done that. But you have to run it like a business, and it's not like he cut a bunch of people. He cut, and look, the roster is so deep in terms of the amount of people that are signed. I mean, there's people signed that you never even see on TV anymore. How many? When was the last time we saw Ethan Page? Like, I mean, maybe I think he's in Ring of Honor doing some stuff, but I mean, how many times do we see somebody who's never on an AEW show anymore? That's what all these people were. Why have them if they're not going to be on your TV set? You're not doing house shows. Trying to beef up Rampage and Collision, and you can't get more than 500,000 people an episode anyway? Like, what's the point of having people who don't add and bring something to the table? Like I said, he probably should have cut a lot more. You feel bad for him, you really do, but I'm not crying over Gravity not being on the roster. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
It's not like Bray Wyatt or FTR.
Yeah, they were not Vince level cuts.
No. Now they can go and do their thing and try and make and go back on the indies, become a good, really great professional wrestler, and then have WWE or AEW sign you again. But just having these guys on the payroll because Tony likes them and they know somebody, fuck that.
Yeah.
It's over.
Jose, the assistant.
Yeah, like, okay.
You're not going to miss him? Come on.
Well, Andrade was his guy. What about Roosh?
Why is Roosh, he's another one that, like, sort of dodges a bullet there.
Yeah, whatever that faction is.
Preston Vance or whatever.
Facción de Ingobernables. Ingobernables de Facción, is that what it's called? Thank you so much for watching High Spots and Cheap Pops. For Vladi Dottie, this is Silicon Steve Alley. Hit the subscribe button and let us know what you think. Thank you for watching, and here endeth the lesson.